Hello everybody, my name is Elizabeth Lopez and today I will be discussing my article that is called How Can Women Escape the Compensation Negotiation Dilemma? So just the purpose of the article and the aim of the current research is to discuss and test strategies for how women negotiating for higher pay might enhance their social outcomes while also improving their negotiation outcomes. So here's just a short video on gender pay gap and how women are generally considered to be paid less than men.
So first of all, we have to focus on the evidence, we have to focus on data. In fact, I'm a bit on a mission here to suggest to organizations that we should use the same kind of scrutiny that we use in our finance departments and in our marketing departments, also in our HR departments. As you're thinking about the data that you want to collect, you should think about representation. That means you should look at the fraction of women and men you hire compared to the available pool. Then you should repeat this exercise, looking at career advancement at each hierarchy level. How many men and women do we have? What does our promotion look like? Really take a very close look at how you compensate men and women, not just in terms of salary, but also in terms of bonus. You might also want to look at how you allocate work, because what we often find is something that we call performance support bias, where women aren't given the same kind of support as their male counterpart. Do not focus on fixing mindsets or fixing people, but instead fix your systems. And when I say systems, I think about formal procedures, how we recruit, how we hire, how we evaluate our job applicants. But I also mean things that are beyond kind of what we normally call kind of formal procedures. So think about your culture, about your meetings, about what we might refer to these days as micro inequities or even microaggressions. Thirdly, we can get into the nitty-gritty of what these different debiasing procedures mean. And maybe I'll just give you two examples. The first one is, if you think about your job advertisements, we now know, and we have the big data to in fact help us predict how likely employers are to attract women when they use words such as competitive or assertive or leader, which stereotypically are associated with men, as compared to words such as collaborative or cooperative or compassionate, which traditionally are associated with women. Debias the language that you use in your job advertisements. I think that's a very low-hanging fruit that really any organization can implement. Maybe a second idea for organizations is to think about their career advancement. That's really where much of the action is today, where we're losing a lot of female talent. Look at whether you in fact promote based on people's performance and whether you promote equally. And if not, which is in fact what we often find, we call this performance reward bias, where women don't get the same kind of reward given the performance appraisals they have received, then try to intervene. For example, you might want to think about informing your managers on their promotion track record by gender. Often just knowing what has happened helps solve the problem, suggesting that in fact much of this is happening unconsciously and unintentionally. And by giving people the tools to fix some of their own behaviors, we can really move the needle in the right direction.
Okay, so now with the background, so how women can shrink the gender pay gap by negotiating more effectively for a higher compensation, and the dilemmas women face. How women have to weigh the benefits of negotiating against the social consequences of negotiating. How these dilemmas are addressed, and strategies to help women improve their negotiation and social outcomes by using relational accounts, negotiation strategies that explain the legitimacy of the negotiation request, that reinforce concern for organizational relationships. Okay, so scripts for negotiation, research theories in four respects. So the first theory, it extends research on gender-based social backlash in the workplace. It contributes to the literature on gender in negotiation by testing the boundaries of the compensation negotiation dilemma for women. The third one, it contributes to the study of social accounts in negotiation by illustrating the importance of crafting accounts that conform to identity-based social expectations. The research reinforces the importance of measuring the social implications of one's negotiation behavior, which may ultimately be a greater consequence than one's immediate economic returns. Okay, demonstrating concern for organizational relationships. Self-advocating for higher compensation is problematic for female negotiators because it is a stereotypically masculine behavior that violates prescription of the feminine stereotype. There are several strategies for women to reduce social costs. One being women have more leeway to behave in stereotypically masculine ways if they show feminine behaviors such as showing concern for others. Motivated by expectation states theory. For example, in a mixed gender work group, men would be expected to make more valuable contributions than women, and women must find ways to compensate for this expectation gap. In the context of compensation negotiations, researchers hypothesize that demonstrating concern for organizational relationships will reduce the social cost to women of making claims to higher pay. Okay, so social accounts. Communicating concern for organizational relationships are predicted to improve a woman's social outcome and improve their ability to get what they want in negotiation. A way to enhance the persuasiveness of their negotiation requests can be to make them appear more legitimate. One strategy for this is to use a social account. A social account is a statement made by a social actor to explain unanticipated behavior. By making an excuse or justifying the behavior, they can only work if the target accepts the explanation. By applying the concept of the social account to job negotiations, it is predicted to evaluators will be more willing to grant employees pay requests if they perceive the employee's explanation for their negotiation behavior as legitimate. Okay, relational accounts. Improving both social and negotiation outcomes is essential to addressing women's compensation negotiation dilemma. To improve this, researchers hypothesized to us an approach called the relational account, which is a strategy that makes female negotiations appear more relational by more gender stereotype congruent while making their requests seem more legitimate. The logic of relational accounts builds from the following hypothesis. 1. The concern for organizational relationships will improve women's social outcomes, specifically by increasing evaluators' willingness to work with them. 2. Social accounts that increase the perceived legitimacy of negotiation requests will improve the outcomes. 3. Increase social and negotiation outcomes by using a relational account, which is a legitimate explanation for their negotiation behavior that also communicates their concern for organizational relationships. Relational account highlights that common strategies to improve social account and material outcomes in negotiation. So here's an overview of the two studies that researchers tested in order to help women improve their negotiation and social outcomes in compensation negotiations. Study 1, communicating concern for organizational relationships improved female negotiators' social outcomes, and offering a legitimate amount for compensation requests, improve negotiation outcomes. The second study tested 2 strategies devised to improve female negotiators' social and negotiation outcomes by explaining why a compensation request is legitimate in relational terms. Using relational accounts can improve a women's social and negotiation outcomes at the same time. Relevance. So the course helps understand constraints women face when they negotiate and that gender constraints are real in the workplace. Importance of focusing on overcoming social backlash and gender stereotypes. Negotiation theory is relevant and useful to have better organizational relationships for a more successful business. And the conclusion. To conclude my presentation, I'm just going to make a few key points about the theories tested. It was found that female negotiators can reduce social resistance and improve their negotiation if they legitimize their requests in a manner that also shows their concern for organizational relationships. Research also suggests that women break glass ceilings. They do so for others and for themselves. And hopefully women will put these insights into practices to reduce the gender pay gap and authority reforms the social structures that keep women in their place. We propose that women can devise negotiating strategies to overcome the compensation negotiation dilemma. And here's my works cited page. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation.